20 years later she regrets breaking up with me. Long story here. I, 50 male, had a girlfriend 20 years ago. She was 22 at the time and still very immature. We were together for probably over a year. She was beautiful and I enjoyed the best I had in my life, even though she didn't have any experience. I always treated her right, with respect and love. One day, she decided to break up with me. She gave me no reason. She just wanted to stop seeing me. That hurt a lot. We just met a couple of times later and every time, I used some mean comments and she brushed it off saying, "We had a good time," and that was it. A couple of months after the breakup she started a new relationship. The guy treated her badly, was very controlling and she ended up breaking up again. She then had a couple of relationships that never went as she imagined. She had a son in one of them. I never heard from her again. I went on with my life. Had a few relationships that didn't work so well. Then found a girl and we spent 15 years together. I left my home country with this girl. We separated less than 2 years ago and I moved to a new country. I almost completely forgot about that girl. We had friends in common, one of them was her best friend. Her best friend heard I got divorced and got my phone number from one of my best friends. It turns out they checked my profile from time to time and talked about how I was that person she always wanted, and she screwed up. We started communicating via Facebook. Nothing flirtatious, just like two old friends. Communication stopped for a while, because her son got sick with Hodgkin's disease and started treatment. The boy is doing better, probably will recover completely. Then, one day she wants to talk. I gave her my number and she started asking me to forgive what she did. I thought it was only her trying to forget the past and start a friendship. I was wrong. She wanted me to forgive her for doing what she did. She says she wanted to find someone like me in the other relationships, but realized how wrong she was. She and her best friend would often talk, and she would admit how wrong she was in breaking up with me. She says, she's always regretted it and promised herself that if she ever got a second chance with me, she wouldn't screw it up again. We've been talking for hours. She's still the same sweet woman I met, but more mature, and older of course. She puts a lot of effort in trying to make things work and I believe she feels what she says. She even remembers things about that time I had almost completely forgotten. When I talked to her, she told me she has been single for 2 years and concentrated in her son's studies and sports career, until the bad news. She wasn't planning on having any relationships, until she heard I was single again. The problem is, although I do love her, like her and believe what she says, I have a hard time getting over the past, how she broke up, how I missed many of the best years because of that decision. I try to think it was her immaturity and youth, but still I'm stuck in time. And although I forgive her, I still resent a few things. Has anyone been in a situation like this or any similar? How did you proceed? Did it work out? Now for the top advice. I read through and I still don't see that you mentioned it, but what was the reason for the initial breakup? Without knowing that, I'm not sure you could put an end to the past and start fresh, so to speak. She just decided to end it, still says she doesn't know why she did it if she felt good all the time. That's usually code for I thought I could do better. She found out, the hard way, that the grass wasn't so green on the other side, and now she's back. It sounds like she caused you a lot of pain and heartache, and you'll always be wondering if the other shoe is going to drop again. Just curious, are you earning a lot more than you were before? Maybe she sees you a free meal ticket? I know hypergamy is a thing, but I don't think she's in a bad position financially. Sounds exploitative to me, calling you up just as you were dealing with a divorce, not to mention she's basically a single mother looking to share her own burden and misery. Walk away from this woman if you know what's good for you. The divorce happened 2 years ago. We just started talking a month ago. She was 22 and didn't know what a catch you were? A lot of young people have this problem if the first relationship is very good. They don't have anything to compare it to, and it makes them feel very insecure. I did the same thing with my first boyfriend and broke up with him at 22. It doesn't mean that this was a habitual thing where I was trying to trade up all the time. I just wanted experience and the space to grow as a person. I'm 27 now and regret it very much. But it's not because of other men abusing me, which has happened, it's because when we cuddled, I felt something with him I have never even come close to feeling with anyone else. Even with men who were not at all abusive and spoiled me. I had no idea how rare and special that feeling was, and I worry I will never feel it again. It's definitely not like hey, I tried and I can't find anyone better. I have dated far more successful men, but I realized quickly that none of that matters to me. He felt like my soulmate. He felt like home. I would try again if I get the chance, but I genuinely hope that doesn't happen, because he seems to be happily married now and I don't want anything bad to ever happen to him. Now for the second story. Updated, I think my boyfriend is trying to push our relationship off onto his friend. As the title suggests, I believe that my 24 female boyfriend, 26 male, is trying to actively move me to date his best friend. I've been dating my boyfriend, we'll call him Michael, for about a year now. We've known each other for years previous because we've always been in the same friends group since high school. His best friend, we'll call him John, has also been someone I've known for a long time, because he's also in the group. John had asked me out years ago but I turned him down, because he's always been somewhat of a cocky guy who could never see he was ever wrong. Many people find him charming, but I think smarmy is a better word. He seemed offended but brushed it off, and even told people that I had asked him out and he rejected me, which was fine because it didn't affect my life at all. After a few months, all was forgotten and we just pretended the other one didn't exist, and that's how it's been for years. Until Michael asked me out randomly and I decided to give it a shot. It turned out we had a lot of similar hobbies and really had a good time, so we started dating shortly after that. Now about 6 months ago, Michael started to act strange but in really subtle ways. I would talk about how much I loved animals and he would interject that John just loved animals. Which wouldn't be weird, but he did it with everything I talked about with even the slightest bit of enthusiasm. If I loved it, John loved it just as much. He told me how compatible me and John were and how he wished we meshed more. I eventually told Michael I really didn't care what John liked, because he was kind of pretentious and we never got along. He seemed really offended but quickly recovered and by the next day, everything was good again. About a week after that instance Michael would talk up John randomly, and with seemingly no reason. Hey, I talked to Brittany yesterday and man, John is apparently a god in bed, haha. Maybe I should ask the guy for tips? John is volunteering at that shelter we went to a couple weeks ago. What a guy. We should have John make us dinner, he's a great cook. It was every day to every other day I had to hear about John's greatness, and it was to the point I initially thought that Michael wanted to date John. Then 3 weeks ago after we had some drinks, he asked me, if we ever broke up would you date someone else in the group? I had no idea what to say because it was so random, but he quickly filled the void by saying, I think I would if I were you, and John was single. Seriously? So, 3 days ago I confronted him in the kitchen and told him that if he had anything he wanted to tell me I would listen to it, no matter what, and that I would always be there for him. He seemed confused and told me he had no idea what I meant by that. So, I brought up all the times he talked about John and how he would date him, and told him that if he really wanted to date John, I understood and would support them. After all, they're best friends, so they obviously have a good connection. When I say he blew up, I cannot stress how angry he got. He used a dozen slurs for gay people and said he was disgusted I saw him like that, and that he would never do something like that. We ended up getting in a huge fight over it, because I certainly don't support his language or attitude toward LGBTQ folks, and that it was just a vibe I got from him and I didn't mean to mislabel him. We haven't really talked but he's staying at his parents' house right now, and today John called me to tell me he doesn't support Michael's attitude toward me, and invited me over to talk about it, even saying that Michael was 100% okay with it. Am I crazy? Am I making up some convoluted story in my head or is this bizarre? Now let's read the top advice before the update. You should ask him why he is trying to set you up with John. You should also break up with Michael. I just didn't want to come out and say that, because it's so presumptuous I guess. I have no proof, just that gut feeling that something is wrong. I'm trying to think through my options, because this is our first real fight, but once again, it's always about John. Then ask why he is always talking John up to you and insinuating that you should date John. I was planning to call him when he got off work, and I think you're right, so I'll just straight up ask and see where that gets me. Or Michael is secretly in love with John and hasn't wanted to come out yet. That explains why he blew up when you called him out. Yeah, my gaydar was going off before I even got to that paragraph, then the slurs pretty much confirmed it. Well, I've been thinking this over and if that was the case, I really don't think he would have said the things he said when I asked. I think you underestimate a closeted person. Why was he talking to Brittany about John and their life? It's strange. The group is pretty open in general, I've heard a lot about other people's lives, so that in itself wasn't weird to me. But what he said when I asked was very homophobic. And then he told John it would be a good idea for me to go talk to him at his house? I'm not discrediting your idea, but I'm calling him in an hour and will be asking direct questions. Edit. So, I called Michael when he got off work and the first thing he asked me was if I went to vent to John. Naturally I didn't, because we're not close, and told him as much. He didn't have much to say to that, so I started on my questions that you guys suggested. Why are you pushing me toward John? Do you want to break up, etc.? He got once again defensive and said he refused to talk about it over the phone, and suggested we meet at John's place to talk it out. I asked why John had to be included at all, since it is really between the two of us, and he basically told me that it's really between the three of us. I refused meeting at John's for obvious reasons and told him if it had to be the three of us, we could meet at a restaurant. He seemed fine with that and we scheduled meeting at a bar/grill that's pretty close to all of us. I showed up early and got us a table that had some privacy, and not long after John walks through the door. He sat down immediately and started chatting about how we were both so timely, and that he liked when women showed up early because it showed they had good time management skills. 25 minutes after Michael was supposed to show up, he texts me and says he had car problems and couldn't make it, but to get to know John, since I was already there. I'm just beyond livid at this point. John keeps trying to buy me drinks and even tries to schedule another time to hang out. I confronted him about Michael pushing me toward him, and he acted like he didn't know what I was talking about. I kept mentioning how Michael was talking about him to me and John just said that it made sense because brothers have brothers' backs. I told him the brothers can have each other and left fuming. Michael's tried calling me 3 times, John's tried 7. I want to cut them both off and say good riddance, but to do that would be leaving the friend group as well, and I don't really have that many friends to begin with, and it makes me so mad that I even have to make this decision. Anyway, that's the update. Sorry if it doesn't resolve anything, it makes me angry too. Now for the full update. I went to Michael's house pretty early this morning since I have worked today and really needed this resolved. I had been up all night going back through the comments and trying to piece everything together, and honestly, it was driving me crazy. Michael was alone when I got there, which was a relief because I pictured John showing up like a movie villain. He initially didn't want to let me in, which was really weird, but I told him I wasn't going to leave without talking to him about this. So, he finally let me come in. We sat down to talk. I asked him about the last night, which he said he had car trouble but it was all fixed now. Convenient. I asked him a few more questions but was met with vague answers, so I decided to just cut to the chase and said, "Why do you want me to like John? Do you want me to date him? Do you want to have a 3-way, what is it?" Once again, instead of answering, he just watched me from his stupid chair, and then had the nerve to ask me who I told my suspicions to. So, I said I'd been running them through my head, but that my mom knew I was coming over to talk. She didn't, but he was starting to be really creepy. He got mad and said it wasn't like that, and I was making him out to be the bad guy because they were, yes, they, looking for something long-term, not just a one-time thing. And now that all my suspicions were 100% confirmed, I told him you can't make plans including someone else without their consent, and that I would never be interested in anything with the two of them, and that I was no longer interested in anything with just him either. I started leaving and told him to never contact me again. Same goes for John, and he could share the message, when he blocked my way out and said I had to hear him out, and his side of the story. I told him I didn't want to, nor care to, and that he needed to let me leave, because my mom was expecting me in the next half hour. He started getting frantic, saying if he could just get John over there to explain, it would all make sense. So, I ran out the back door and used the garden exit to get to my car and locked the doors immediately. He came outside and started pounding on my windows, saying I was making a huge mistake and that I'd regret this. I was bawling in my car when I backed it up to drive away. I'm pretty sure I drove over their mailbox by accident, because the back of my car has a huge dent. My car was basically out of gas, so I had to stop even though all I wanted to do was put as much space between us as possible. Which is when I saw the dent. Right when I was about to leave, who else would call my name, but his mom. She was on her way home from the grocery store and was worried because I looked like hell warmed over. I told her about everything that just happened and got more than a few stares from other people, but F it, I guess I'm just the crazy lady at Maverick. His mom looked horrified for me, and told me to stay as far away from him as possible. She told me to come sit with her in her car, where she proceeded to ask me when I met Michael, which was high school. She figured as much and said that in middle school him and John forced a girl together, and have a sealed record because they were minors and didn't mean to do it. She told me how sorry she was, because she said it happened so long ago, She thought he changed. She put him in therapy and thought he was better. She said if she had any idea there might have been a chance of this happening, she would have told me immediately. I just gave her a quick bye and I'm so freaking scared of everything right now. I'm going to my mom's, since they both know where I live. I sent a mass text out to everyone in the group detailing everything, and so far, 3 people have said they support me, so that's good I guess. What do I even do? I'm never talking to them again. I've already blocked them both on everything I could think of, but I've been getting hidden number calls since. I'm considering going to the police station to file a harassment complaint, so that it's at least documented. My mom said she's going to call my uncle who works at the court, and see what the next best step is. Thank you guys so much. I don't know if I would have confronted Michael without you guys confirming how weird this was. I'm terrified, but glad that I at least know what's going on now. My mom's here as my support right now and some of the girls are coming over later tonight, just to make sure I'm okay. I'm sorry if this only makes some sense, the adrenaline still hasn't left me and my hands are unsteady. I appreciate every single one of you who took time to help me out because I think I got out just in time honestly. Honestly. Thank you guys. And that's it for this video guys. If you have thoughts to share, leave a comment below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you like this content. Turn the notification on to get updated on my latest posts. I'll catch you in the next one. Good day everyone.